The carry job that Allen Iverson pulled off in the mid to early 2000s for the Philadelphia 76ers was pretty damn incredible. How he was constantly towards the top of the league when it came to scoring, as well as being one of the most exciting and influential players the NBA has ever seen, and doing it with a crop of talent around him that really wasn't that impressive. We all remember his Game 1 performance in the 2001 NBA Finals against the Los Angeles Lakers, as the Sixers and AI were the only ones to give Los Angeles a loss in those entire playoffs. And they also gave the Lakers a couple of close games in that series. It wasn't just the first game. But in this video today, we're going to see, could AI have actually beaten those Lakers if a certain star player was his teammate? Because I think at his very peak, if Allen just had one other guy who the defense really had to respect, I mean, who knows what would have happened. Now, I want to tell you something from way back in 1999. Billy King, who was then the GM of the Sixers, had a deal in place to trade away Larry Hughes to the Toronto Raptors, and in return he would get a first-round pick as well as a young Tracy McGrady, who at that time was an athlete who wasn't really getting the opportunity to go off with the Raptors. Now, we know what T-Mac would eventually have become, so we have to ask if he really pulls the trigger on this move, and it was going to happen. He just backed out at the last second because he's Billy King. If T-Mac would have had himself in a 76ers jersey next to Allen Iverson, two of the league's top scorers in the 2000s, I mean, what would have happened, you know? Because with how Iverson was able to carry a team full of mainly defensive players, if he would have had just one other guy who could have been a big-time player next to him, I mean, that Sixers team in 2001, they were one of the best defensive teams in the league, and they were good enough offensively. I mean, with these two, they could have been one of the top offensive teams in the league. Because in the year 2001, that was when T-Mac was on the Magic, where he exploded for 20-plus points a game. So let's see what would have happened. Those two together on the same team, I mean, it would have been a terror for a majority of NBA teams, especially with the quality veterans they had around them. But could they have beaten those 2001 Los Angeles Lakers, going 15-1 in the playoffs? Perhaps at Shaquille O'Neal's height, when it came to just how unstoppable he was, and Kobe Bryant was regarded as one of the best players in the league as well. And if we can dive into this series before we start simulating, who's Kobe going to defend? Is Bryant going to be defending T-Mac, or is he going to defend Allen Iverson? And as a result, will the other one have a mismatch? I mean, that's going to be interesting. We may forget how good of a defensive player Kobe was when he was just younger and more athletic. And, I mean, there's a lot of star power in this thing. Who's going to contain who? Is it going to be possible? Also, how are the role players going to perform? I mean, the Lakers have quite a few strong bench guys with Ron Harper and Rick Fox, who always contributed nicely for them. And then there's Big Shot Bob, Robert Horry. Don't leave him open, especially in the fourth quarter, because it's probably going to go in. And for the Sixers, there's Aaron McKee, who was like the one other guy who could generate offense besides Allen Iverson. Also Eric Snow, who is a nice ball handler, even if he's not going to shoot the ball too much. Let's see what happens. Ignore the records, I had to make sure they got here. Game 1 to the Los Angeles Lakers, Allen Iverson and Tracy McGrady doing what they could, but I mean, if Kobe Bryant as well as Shaq are going to put over 30 points up individually, then 30-plus points from Allen Iverson really isn't going to matter anyway. The Sixers in this first game just seemed not ready to go, and you'll notice this game was in Philadelphia. That's because originally these two teams in 2001 both won 56 games, but I think T-Mac on the Sixers would boost their wins up a little bit more, so they have home court advantage. But Kobe and Shaq, just too damn dominant. The Sixers are going to have to correct that right away, or else this is not going to be a long series. Seems they did something right, as it's now tied up at 1-1, and T-Mac and Iverson both had themselves some games. Kobe and Shaq did very well too, but, I mean, this is the effect right here. How many times did Iverson have another guy who could score more points than him. I mean, the only time he had it in his career really was Carmelo Anthony, and at that point AI wasn't in his prime. This is peak Allen Iverson, and this is Tracy McGrady entering his prime, both in like their mid-20s or so. We should also mention Tyronn Hill having himself a nice game as a role player, contributing, always a good thing. But now we're going back to Lakerland for the next 2 games, and I mean, Kobe and Shaq, as dominant of a 1-2 punch as the NBA has ever seen outside of just a couple others, and they do manage to make it a 2-1 series. Shaq is killing the Sixers as of right now, man. And Iverson, my God, Allen Iverson, 43 points. I mean, he had himself a hell of a game, but Shaq wasn't too far off from AI in terms of points, and then everything else that Shaq does around the rim. Kobe with 32 on 12 for 18 shooting. That's as efficient as you can ask for. But the Lakers also got some nice contributions from the role players. Isaiah Ryder with 16 points. That's all you can ask for out of someone not in the big 2. Allen Iverson, he definitely wanted to win this one here. 43 points. If you remember the ridiculous shots he was hitting against them in real life when this series was in LA, we're not surprised there. I mean, Tracy didn't have himself the best game, about 17 points, but the Sixers overall had a balanced attack, and they only lost this game by 4 points, so some things to feel good about, but there's a difference between feeling good and actually winning, so there's a chance that Shaq and these guys could make it a 3-1 series right now and put this thing pretty much out of reach, or not. They're not going away, man. Sixers actually had themselves a defensive performance this time, holding the Lakers to 94 points, and Tracy McGrady was lights out from 3. I mean, I know it's just highlights, but this really would have been awesome to see these 2 guys whose careers didn't particularly go as well as they could have. To see these 2 guys play together really would have been awesome. Aaron McKie contributed with 12 solid points off the bench. That's always good. And watch out for Aaron McKie, because he does something in this series that's a little ridiculous. Lakers also had themselves some quality performances by their role players, but the Sixers were known as a great defensive team, and they showed it here. Shaq and Kobe, they did something, but they were not able to go off. Now we're in Philadelphia for Game 5, and is the upset real? This is officially known as the Aaron McKie game. 35 points for the Philadelphia 6th man. What, he hit 5 3-pointers? I have to imagine that Philadelphia was rocking and then some for this game. It's a weird thing, you know? When a role player goes off in a big moment, it seems to always happen maybe once a series. And if you have star players of this caliber with Allen Iverson and T-Mac, just one other guy having a big game, it's not surprised that this one was a blowout for the 76ers. Now the Lakers are going to have to just answer back. I mean, they don't want to lose this thing on their home floor. But if you do remember, in the three-peat for these guys, they had themselves quite a few miraculous comebacks. There was the one against the Kings, which that one might be a bit BS. There was also the one against the Trailblazers, which was great. And we got a Game 7 coming. A close one, though. And once again, neither Kobe or Shaq really able to kill the Sixers, definitely having themselves good games, but remember Game 1, they both scored like over 35 points? Seems that Philadelphia has at least somewhat figured out how to deal with the star power of these Lakers, but they still did manage to force a Game 7, even if it is in Philadelphia where the Lakers have struggled a little bit. When you have 2 players of the magnitude of Kobe Bryant and Shaquille O'Neal for only one game, that's very tough to deal with. I mean, I'm sure Allen Iverson and T-Mac and these guys, they're going to give it all they have, but I mean, I got to pick the Lakers for this Game 7. Now, of course, I already know the outcome, but whatever. Who's going to win this Game 7? Is the upset real? Well, it is, man. Both times I've done videos like this recently, the underdog has actually won, and Allen Iverson was way more efficient than you'd expect him to be in this series. Tracy McGrady had himself a big one. This was a blowout. A 14-point victory for the Sixers in a Game 7. There you go, man. I mean, at least according to 2K, You gave Iverson one other big-time player in Tracy McGrady, a guy who can create his own offense, give it up to other guys, be an athlete, as well as a big-time scorer. That was all Iverson and those Sixers needed to go up against the Kobe Bryant and Shaquille O'Neal Lakers and come out with a win. Iverson was actually more of a facilitator in this game, only had about 18 points as he was making sure that the role players had themselves some nice games as T-Mac went off. And Shaquille O'Neal and Kobe Bryant, man. Seems that the Sixers, with that defense, managed to hold those guys in check enough. They both still put up over 20 points a game regularly, but 77 points in a Game 7, I mean, Sixers just locked them down. I imagine there were quite a few big plays where the feisty defense of the Sixers just forced Los Angeles to do things they didn't want to do, and then they came down, and when you have two top-tier talents, hey man, congratulations to them. And whether you agree that this would have actually happened or not, I think we would all agree with, we all really wish that Billy King would have pulled the trigger and we could have seen Tracy McGrady and Allen Iverson on the same team for an extended period of time.